Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Green Arrow FPL podcast from Fantasy Football Hub. My name is Fergie, and here as usual with Rich Clarke, who I didn't text on the weekend. Rich, how are you? And what colour was your arrow in Gameweek 10?
Good evening, Fergie. Good evening, everyone. I'm all right. I've had a bit of a cold, and I'm a lot better shape mentally tonight than I was on Sunday afternoon.
Shall I crank up the violin? Is the first
Yeah,
question.
I would. I think.
Shall I
a
crank
bit,
up the
a bit of
violin? I'll
background
just dust it
music.
off. Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, mate.
Ready?
Ready.
Okay, mate. Well, yeah. Sort of three-pronged attack on my team. I miraculously did end up with. I've ended up with a green arrow, but God knows how. Absolutely horrendous set of circumstances, really. I decided to not go for the Haaland Salah switch. We talked about it on last week's show. It was a 50-50 decision.
It was 50-50, to be fair.
A lot of people across the community did make their move, and so there was a huge variance on captaincy. But that was a conscious decision. Decided to stick with Haaland for the next two. Captain him. He missed a whole load of chances, and
unbelievable how many chances he's missed in the bot, like in the 6-yard area these last few weeks. Massive high XG chances. Yeah. You never seen anything like it, have you?
Exactly. No, I haven't seen anything like it. And yeah, so that just is what it is. I mean, I think the again logical decision, put Semenyo on the bench against Man City. 10 points, just sitting there,
laughing at you,
man of the match, laughing at me
with his coat on.
And then on Sunday, I wasn't even watching the game, the Tottenham Villa game. I'd gone into the game week, not sure whether to sell. Well, I made a joke, didn't I, about selling both Dominics.
That's right.
After the budget becoming a non-dom. Well, I decided to sell Calvert-Lewin.
No, you didn't.
I sold Solanke. You're right. I decided to keep Calvert-Lewin.
Keep Calvert-Lewin.
And play it because he was playing Southampton, and sell Solanke for Cunha. And the Spurs game, I went to the loo and I saw that Rodgers had scored. I thought, that's not going too badly. And I think I went to the loo in the second half and saw that Brennan Johnson had scored, and going, this is all going rather well. And then at the end of the game, I found out what had happened with
Big Dom,
with Solanke and his 16-point haul. So yeah, we'll get into some more detail on this swinginess around forward choices in a minute. But yeah, I mean, those three things: the Salah captaincy, the holding Calvert-Lewin, selling Solanke, and benching Semenyo. Really,
I've got to ask.
Could have been looking at a 70-pointer.
I've got to ask you, why did you keep Dominic Calvert-Lewin? I mean, just saying his name just like turns my stomach.
I know.
And right, who's playing for a poor team? He's playing in a poor team, and you got Solanke. I appreciate he had bad stats. Back-to-back home games, and this week now in game week, what was it, 12? It's home to Ipswich. I just cannot, like, of all the decisions you always make, this is the one. It's absolutely baffled me.
I have looked at this and thought, that this is genuinely probably the biggest mistake I've made all season, that I can take ownership of and say, yeah, that's a mistake. The reason I sold Solanke over Calvert-Lewin, bigger picture, we're trying to accumulate cash in the bank.
Fair point.
Towards making midfield upgrades in future game weeks. So I'm trying to build funds to allow a 3 premium attack. Now, whatever that combination of that is changing around, obviously, but it could be Palmer and Saka, it could be Salah and Saka, or whatever, in terms of like, you need a lot of funds to make those changes in coming weeks.
That's a fair point.
Coming down off Solanke to a 6 million forward was one of the reasons. I listened to a lot of content last week talking about holding DCL for Southampton. He's playing Southampton. Give him one more game. We all know he's hopeless, but give him one more game. And then after we've looked at your team, we'll look at the stats in the run-up to that decision.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And you'll look at Solanke's numbers, because we've got them in a little table. And the combination of those three things, plus Dominic, everyone's going, Solanke's not shooting. He's not taking any shots. He's getting the ball with his back to goal and looking to find another player. So there's all this sort of eye test stuff in there as well when you're watching games. So the combination of all those things just made me think, okay, I'll give Calvert-Lewin Southampton and I'll sell him next week and I'll sell Solanke. Plus, I've still got Brennan Johnson to cover the Ipswich game. Cover, as you know, is a funny word, but all those reasons were in my head were what contributed to it. So yeah, I feel awful. And I feel terrible.
And they're sensible. I think I'm laughing at you. I sold Solanke as well. We'll touch on mine now. Maybe mine was a touch more obvious than yours because I have to do it as part of a bigger move. But yeah, it's just a Calvert-Lewin just sat there, just like, you know, Calvert-Lewin just sat there at the end, mate, just looking up like
stop saying his name. I won't get any sleep.
It's over, Calvert-Lewin. Anyway, yeah, let's have a look at my team. I did better, 56, mainly because I did the Salah captain move, which I was so pleased with. It's probably the one, you know, we talk about 50-50s all season. It's probably the one move I've done all season that's actually very quickly paid off. So I was really pleased with that. But I made a boo-boo last game week in hindsight, because I would have kept. No, I had to sell Solanke to get the money to do Foden to Salah, but there was a problem with this. So last week, if you remember, I took out Saliba for Aït-Nouri because I was concerned about Rico Lewis's minutes. Now I didn't really need to kind of do that, really. And what I would have done this week is I would have taken out Gabriel and kept Saliba. And that would have meant that I could have done Foden to Salah for free, which means I could have kept Solanke, which I would have done without any shadow of a doubt. But I was forced into a Solanke downgrade to get the money Foden to Salah. So it's amazing how these little moves
all related,
and they spin off into and they impact your whole season, don't they? But yeah, so I ended up getting Jimenez. I was really tossing up between Jimenez and Cunha. Looked at the stats and everything, and Jimenez's stats were superb. Really liked his fixtures as well. Obviously, that didn't quite work out on Monday night. Semenyo on the bench as well. Do have a poem actually, a Chat GPT poem again. Around game week 10. So this is my game week. It is called A Green Arrow Glows, which is nice. But according to ChatGPT, in game week 10, I chanced to move Fabianski over Flecken. I forgot to mention that. I barely improved. Disaster dodged by Wilson's flair. A double late like a breath of fresh air. But oh, my defence, a scene of shame, not a single point to save their name. A wall crumbled, the back line flawed. My shocker defenders left me awed. Yet up top the lads held firm. They showed Rogers, Johnson and a strike from Wood. Their goals brought hope, they fought the fight, though Salah reigned our shining knight. But pangs of regret, a haunting ache, as I sold Solanke. What a mistake. 16 points he stacked in pride, while Semenyo sat benched at my side. A week of swings, the highs, the lows, but a green arrow in the end still rose. Through choices wild, both bold and strange, my FPL dream finds its range. I did forget to mention, Rich, as well. I did play Fabianski over Flecken, and I must say, I was at the pub on Monday night, and when Harry Wilson scored that equaliser, I was on the ceiling because
he went from 12 points to
12 to 4, and it was absolutely unbelievable. That was, that was one of the highlights of my season because it really was. Because I played Fabian, I thought it was being quite clever. I'll play with West Ham keeper because I thought absolutely guaranteed Fulham score a couple of goals against Brentford. Thought West Ham potentially a chance of a clean sheet against Forest, I think it was, wasn't it? But yeah, Flecken just, kept pulling out all these. He made 10 saves in the match.
I know, it was incredible.
But I thought, what's the odds of getting a clean sheet away to Fulham, who've been on fire this season when he's managed to concede against everyone else? And when that goal went in, I was jumping around. I was, come on! It was one of those really strange moments. It didn't mean anything to anyone other than FPL manager who didn't own Flecken.
I think other than Raya, Flecker's the most owned keeper in the game, isn't he?
This was it. It would have really hurt. So I was still down on the deal, 4 points to 2, but that could have been 12 points to 2, which would have been a real swing. So So yeah, interesting game week. Cunha got the
Look at
6th.
this in the
Go on.
in the chat. Someone's gone Solanke bench tonight, fresh for another Hall versus Ipswich.
That's about right, mate. That's about right. It'd be good to. That's
Adam Hopcroft.
actually the Spurs team is out, isn't it? It'd be good. It'd be good if someone could put the Spurs team up in the chat. It'd be really good. Thank you. So,
man.
Rich, you wanted to put up a slide. Good decision, bad outcome, and you've got a couple of stats here just to run through.
Well, good decision, bad outcome? ? I think both of us wildcarded in game week 6, right? And I think quite a lot of our audience probably did. And this isn't up here as an excuse. It's just up there as a point of discussion. You know, we could come away from that thinking that we've been really stupid. We could come away from it thinking, you know, we've been really unlucky and we're just on the wrong side of variance. But you know, you have to look into the numbers a little bit and see what they tell you and whether there's anything you can get out of it. I mean, I think if you look at the table here, you'll see the difference in scores from these 3 strikers over the last 5 weeks. So they're in the brackets. So just on that 50-50 decision on the wild card, first of all, before we even look at expected goals, look at the difference between Wood and what he's scored in the last 5 weeks versus Calvert-Lewin.
37.
9 points. Man. 9 points versus 37.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But then when you look at the expected numbers and you tally them up between the two of them, there's virtually nothing between them over 5 weeks. 0.004 of a goal. So what's that? Less than a 1/25th of a goal between them over that period in terms of expected goals, meaning shots in the box, you know, chances, quality of chances, etc. So that's a huge variance that through no skill issue really, you're just either on the right side of like you or the wrong side of like me. So that's huge, right? But the other thing, and the reason I've put this up here, and if you look at the highlighted numbers for Solanke in the 3 weeks between game week 7 and 9, one of the things I said I would try and do this season is play less subjectively and start to incorporate analysis and stats more into my decision making. So that came down to my decision making to sell Solanke. Is I look back at those 3 weeks between 7, 8, and 9, and he's virtually not registering any shots on goal in that.
Centre backs XG they are.
Well, exactly.
They're not even fullbacks.
Barely
XG.
Goes beyond the halfway line. You know, there's just nothing there. I had to go into the cells in the spreadsheet and show 2 decimal places because the 0.00 wouldn't even register. It's so small a number. So that's the reason I sold him. Is I just thought he's not doing anything. And the fact that DCL was playing Southampton, you just thought, give him 1 more week, sell Solanke, get the money out, and perhaps in hindsight, actually getting the money out and then not doing anything with it immediately, I might as well have kept the money in him because it just seems to be a bit silly. I guess I got Cunha in. Cunha got an assist and a bonus point, and he's right there, and he's fine. And in fact, the 3 transfers I've made since Wildcard, Palmer, Johnson, and Cunha, have all returned.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
but they haven't gone nuclear, but they've all returned. Yeah. They've all been sound transfers, but it's just not enough to get me up the rankings. Those decisions. So, yeah, it's. I don't know what the conclusion of this is. It's just that's the reason I sold Solanke. There will be countless other decisions that come up like this through the season. So do we give this kind of weighting to these stats, or you just go with your gut and say, look, as you said before we went on air, you know, Calvert-Lewin plays for a team that, you know, really doesn't score many goals, loses most of its games, and he himself is a very poor finisher. So what's he even doing in the team?
Well, yeah, and
I mean,
yeah.
The way I feel now, I'll never ever own another Everton player. Ever.
Ross Johnson says, "Can you please remove DCL's face laughing at me on the slide?" Yeah, I mean, you know, it just goes to show, you know, I mean, I took Solanke out mainly for mergy purposes, and I had Wood as well. I wasn't getting rid of Wood, but look at those numbers. Like, he was just nowhere near the goal. But the difference is, and I do say this season on season as well, is good players who play for good teams do turn it around, right? I'm still bullish on Haaland. There's a thing, just because Haaland has scored. We'll touch on Haaland next. In fact, we'll touch on Haaland now, who is a real conundrum, which is fantastic for the game, and it is a conundrum, and that's what we want in the game. But just because Haaland has scored 1 goal in 5, does that mean the narrative? Well, he's only going to score 1 in his next 5 then, because that's not the way I feel about it at all. And maybe we should have. It was interesting watching Will on FPL Raptors FPL Therapy this week, because Will brought Solanke in, not last week, the week before, because he could see it's all about this good player in a good team, good home fixtures, Spurs, really good XG and whatever else. But Haaland, 1 in 5. I think there's this narrative which sticks in people's minds that he's gonna keep on blanking. I mean, that's we know that's not going to happen. I know the fixtures are tough, and he may not banging the hat tricks that he scored at the start of the season. But Haaland is a real it's a pivotal moment in the season for lots of people. I'm holding on to him. Just you've got him still, but lots of content creators, lots of top ranked managers, they've all sold him. I think he's the highest transferred out player ahead of this week now as well. So what's your take on Haaland at the moment? And let's take the team dependency out of it, because that's fairly obvious.
Yeah, but I mean, absolutely. Look, he's still. If you look at his expected goal involvement, it's still the highest of any striker. If you just take his value away from it, and if we were to start a new game of draft tonight, and you were to get first pick, who would be your first pick?
Probably Salah. But Haaland would be second.
Right, be a second pick.
Haaland would be second. So they're the best two players.
He hasn't suddenly become
exactly
Calvert-Lewin, has he? Even though he's got the same sort of returns as Calvert-Lewin over the last few weeks, he hasn't become him. City are definitely having a downturn. It's the first time I've seen them lose 3 in a row for years, and they got a bit of a tonking, didn't they, to Sporting
midweek, unbelievable,
in the Champions League. So, but he's tweeted already himself, hasn't he? Best way to deal with this is work harder and come out and do better. So that's going to motivate him this weekend, I would imagine, to just go and score another hat trick. So actually, I think for this week, given the importance of game week 12, I'm going to hold him and give him the armband again and take it on.
Wow. Okay.
Because I'm just going to take on the Salah crowd. I think that's all I can do.
Lucky Llama says Haaland was too busy heading away set pieces, and FPL Freddy, Haaland sold was 311,000 earlier today for this week. FPL Macca, and this is the point, right? Haaland will hold, but feel I've got more point scores to cover that over a longer period. So there's definitely going to be in the coming weeks now. Two sides, right? There's probably going to be the Salah, Palmer, Saka gang, and and they've got a mixture of Wood, Solanke, Cunha, Jimenez, whoever it is, maybe even Isak, for example, against the Haaland and one or two others gang, and there's not going to be a right or wrong answer. Well, there will be a right or wrong outcome, but there's no right or wrong answer now, right? Because if all of a sudden these mid-price strikers, as they tend to do, just fall away,
dry up.
Haaland could still keep turning up every week. I mean, look at the fixtures. Away to Brighton, I still think is a decent fixture for Haaland. Home to Spurs is definitely a good fixture for Haaland. Away to Liverpool is going to be tough. Home to Forest, home against anyone, he's an absolute animal. And away to Palace, and this is his bad. This is his bad run. I don't think they're that bad. The interesting thing then is come game week 18, which I think is when a lot of people are thinking of bringing him back, is getting back that 15.4 million. I suppose the way I'm thinking, I'm trying to think, like at the moment, I think a lot depends on Palmer's fitness. So, I think he'll be fit this week. I think he'll definitely be fit for Game Week 12. And I'll have a decision to make then on whether I basically do this Haaland to Palmer switcheroo, which I probably will with the mindset I'm in now. But I do think we have to look at this over a longer period of time, because even if people score slightly more points over the next 5 or 6 game weeks, say they score 12, 15 more points over that period, they then have to completely rip their team up to get Haaland back in 18, which will probably involve hits. It'll probably involve selling players they don't want to sell. And then over that next 2 or 3 weeks, how that manifests itself in terms of points needs to be considered as well. So I don't think it's cut as dry. Whoever scores more points from game week 10 to 18 has kind of won the day.
No.
There's a lot, a lot more to consider.
Round 1, yeah, the switch looks like it's worked out, yeah, initially. And obviously we've got Salah's got Southampton in game week 12. Not so. It doesn't seem like so essential to make the move this week. I mean, you can if you want to, but it doesn't seem essential to do it this week. But yeah, it's several rounds of it to go, and let's see, shall we? Let's see what works. See what happens.
So looking at the XG over the, you mentioned the other 3 players. They were all roughly 2 in the early 2s of the last 5 games. Haaland's 4.07 XG. 10 shots on target. 10 shots on target. 22 shots overall. And just 1 goal and 0 assists. Just absolutely insane. But it makes for absolute brilliant, storytelling this time of the season. I mean, it's just fantastic. Whether you're on the right side of it or not, like I say, both of us are having a poor season. It's fair, it's fair to say, right? Yeah. But I said this last week, and I'll say it again. Every week I'm optimistic because there's so much variation and diversity within teams and strategies this year that you always feel you're only 1 week away from halving your rank. Whereas when there's a template and when everyone's got the best players, you can never get back, because even if all your players do well, so is everyone else. Whereas it's really different this year. Yeah. There's different captaincy options every week. There's the Haaland factor. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, you've had a game week that didn't. Yes, you made the Salah move, but you benched Semenyo's 10 points. You sold Solanke, absolutely, and you still moved up nearly 1 million places.
Yeah, that's right, and that's the thing.
Two things have not gone your way. If you play Semenyo and kept Solanke,
mate,
you'd have gone up 2 million.
I'll be playing Semenyo this week. I saw he was sold by quite a lot of managers last week, which again, it's one of those. It's the byproducts of the Haaland thing as well. I've won. Haaland, I sold Haaland and he blanked. You want to get Semenyo back in because he is fire. He looks so good, and for his value, he is going to score in my opinion, some serious points over these next 5 or 6 weeks. He is the fixtures. We'll look at the longer term ticker in a minute, but the shorter term ticker, just looking at the next few games, Bournemouth are on there. Game week 11 away to Brentford, then they're home to Brighton, away to Wolves. They're 5th overall on the ticker. Spurs are 4th, home to Ipswich this coming week, away to Man City, home to Fulham. Wolves are 3rd on the ticker, home to Southampton, away to Fulham, home to Bournemouth. Obviously, lots jumped on Cunha. Lots have got Aït-Nouri already. Brentford, lots have got on Mbuemo and Visser and Flecker and whatever else. They're home to Bournemouth this week, away to Everton, home to Leicester. I mean, Brentford's fixtures just go on and on and on and on. If you haven't got on Mbuemo yet, you need to get him. And top of this, actually, a team we're just going to touch briefly on, Man United, who I must say, I watched them against Chelsea last week, and I haven't said this for a long time, but I was impressed. I really was. I thought they actually deserved to win the game personally. Just watching the game, so much more intensity than I've seen in a long time. And they're home to Leicester this weekend. I think that is a fantastic fixture for them. Away to Ipswich in 12 and home to Everton in 13. And Rich, you wanted to touch on Man United assets, and what's your thinking of these players over the coming?
Well, I mean, I think we spent the first quarter of the season kind of laughing at Man United, didn't we? I know there's a lot of Man United fans out there, and they'll often have a little bit of a bias towards players of their team and analytics crew. had Bruno Fernandes in every draft, and some people have still got him. But he's now, if you still got him in your team, definitely want to keep him for the next three.
Absolutely.
Because got a new manager coming in. He won't be here till after the international break, but Rude's already having a difference. I think he's very a couple of good results so far, and a game on I think this evening to have another look at them. So yeah, we've got three guys up here on the picture, but I'd add a fourth to that in a minute. We've got Garnacho, who's a real snip. I think he might have got up from 6.2, but 6.2, 6.3 million, I think. If you're looking for a cheap enabling midfielder. Bruno, I think, is still 8.2, so he's come all the way down from 8.5. I think that'll start to rise after this weekend. And then if you're after a defender, maybe you're coming off a Trent or a Gabriel and want to generate some funds, then that's Dallo, right, at the back there, or is it, I think you've got in there. So, yeah, he'd be the pick of the defenders for me. And then I'd add another one in here, particularly if you're looking to replace a certain Mr. Calvert-Lewin this week, which I am.
Leave him, mate. Leave him. He's gonna come good.
No, he's not. He's not staying. He's definitely not staying. Rasmus Højlund. Yep. I know he's not on the picture, but I think I wrote.
He's on the future. He's on a future one, mate. He's on the next.
Give you enough notice,
no,
but yeah, I just thought 6.9 million. He's less than 2% owned, and it's just this slight doubt over obviously the new manager coming in, how he might set up. I wouldn't say he's nailed to start every game, but I look back and I think he has started the last 4, scored in the last 1. Scored in the League Cup, didn't he? And scored in Europe as well. So he's definitely, his form's on the turn, and I just think he might be worth a punt.
No, I agree. And I don't know if you watched the game last week, Rich, but they took him off for the last, wherever it was, kind of 15 minutes and brought on Xerxes. And the chances that Xerxes had, especially running in behind, there was one chance in particular where Xerxes was clear and he managed to almost run in slow motion, like run backwards, and the defender caught up with him and they managed to get it out. But if that was Højlund, I think he would have been away, and I think, there was a lot of frustration with United fans, who I was sat with anyway, who were saying, they took off Højlund because they felt if Højlund had stayed on, they could have gone on and won the games. That's the only issue for me. I think he does tend to get brought off early, but if he can find his feet, and score the goals, the manager may be tempted to,
but just
keep him on. But obviously, it changed after game 12 anyway.
Those three fixtures though. So what are the 3 fixtures? It's Leicester, Everton, Ipswich, Everton. Is it? Is that the
home
order of
and
them?
home to Leicester, away to Ipswich, away to Everton. They are. Whew.
Yeah, I mean, you could put him in for those. Okay, even if he doesn't, if he starts 2 out of the 3,
yeah, I like it.
You've got a massive differential there for those games, and it's almost tempting to do that rather than a Vissa or a Jimenez or a Strand Larson or something like that. You're not, my one worry about it is that does it tie up that extra million and stops something happening in the midfield in game week 12? I think given our rankings, it hardly matters. We might as well try something that might be explosive. So Rasmus Højlund would be
I think so. And it's going to be interesting because obviously this is the final game now. They'll play under Rude in game week 12 before the new manager comes in, and I think from a momentum sentiment view, since Rude has come in, they've definitely taken off the handbrake. They're clearly enjoying their football. I think they're going to beat Leicester comfortably on the weekend, and from then on, they're playing for a new manager, away to Ipswich, home to Everton. They're going to want to impress him, right? You'd hope this new manager bounce, whether it's actual, actual thing or not.
Definitely.
So I do, I do think in terms of there's not that many opportunities where these, the things sort of really tie in terms of the fixtures and the form and a new manager bounce and any other narrative you want to spin on it. So I do think Man United are definitely.
So you could almost think because it's so expensive to cram in 3 premiums, let's say, and a lot of us are on strategies to get 3 premiums, whichever 3 of the mix we fancy. But you could almost think of Bruno as a cheap premium for the next
Well,
for the next period of
if you
games, don't
remember
you?
Bruno a few years ago, was he a 10.5, 11 million asset who was in everyone's team? Like he was absolutely, use the word essential, but he was fantastic. He took a lot of penalties, fair enough, but he was also superb. He was, he was in everyone's team, and he's obviously slowly dipped it, down to 10, down to 9.5, down to 8.5. United have just been awful, but he's a fantastic player. Even his underlying stats, as the analytics crew will pay testament to, are still good. And I thought, I think it lines up for him. I really do. And if I was still sat on Foden, and you want to wait on Palmer or can't get to Saka or wherever else, I think a Foden to Bruno move, especially given his ownership, is be a really good one. You wanted to have a look, Rich, kind of after the international break, because I think there'll be a lot of people potentially saving their transfer this week. But yeah, looking at the fixtures over the hill, I mentioned Bournemouth. In terms of a lot of people sold Semenyo last week as part of the Haaland move. Home to Brighton in 12, away to Wolves in 13, home to Tottenham, away to Ipswich, home to West Ham. That is a hell of a run of fixtures for Bournemouth. The 5 there. Arsenal then come back massively, into contention with 3 home games in 5. Both Ipswich and Villa have 3 home games in 4, which is why I wouldn't contemplate taking out Rodgers at all. And if anything, I'm looking at Watkins as well. Down the bottom, Forest's really, really turn. United's after 13, they turn really, really hard as well, and West Ham and Palace as well. So yeah, what's your current sort of overarching thinking, Rich, with this in mind?
Well, I think things will slightly change. I do agree with most of what you said. I think if you're sitting on a stack of transfers like I'm not sure how many you've got, but I've got 3 up to 3 to use this week. Probably tempted to just use one and sort the Calvert-Lewin mess out, and then just go into the next week with 3 again, and then spend them all, after the international break, and put that structure in place. Because the key thing is that we're going to be up to game week 19 or 20 by New Year. All of a sudden we're going to get as many games as we've had already.
Yeah, you're right.
In just under 6 weeks. So they're all going to be packed in 2 games a week, or even shorter around the Christmas period. So lots of rotation. You need nailed players. You need talisman players with very strong minutes. And so putting those things in place after the international break for a run of games, you've got the opportunity to do that. And so therefore you need transfers for that. So it's not necessarily going to be all about Salah versus Haaland and Palmer versus Saka and so on. However, all of those players will play the majority of the games. But what you want to do is put that structure in place and then settle on it for this upcoming period. So I think both of us are sitting on Rodgers and Semenyo.
Not going anywhere for me, mate.
They're not going anywhere for me. But the downside of that is it takes up 2 midfield spots.
But I think they're massively outperforming their price tags. Yeah. And I think over this period, they have the potential to be 2 of the highest scoring midfielders. Obviously take out maybe Salah, Palmer and Saka. But that next level down, I wouldn't be surprised if both Semenyo and Rodgers are in that bracket. And they're just so cheap. Yeah. Ridiculous. And obviously we bought them. I think I got Semenyo for I can't remember
I bought
whatever
it was,
6, and Rodgers bargain basement.
Exactly, but and then probably the third mid in most people's teams is Mbeumo. He's got good fixtures probably for the next 3 or 4 games. And then you could look at taking him out. I think, what does it say on there for Brentford's fixtures come around game week 14? I think they start to get harder.
They're home to Leicester in 13, which is obviously a fantastic fixture. Then they're away to Villa in 14, home to Newcastle, away to Chelsea. So maybe 14 is a time to look at.
Right. So there's maybe a hop off of Mbeumo. You could maybe do Mbeumo to Fernandes then. But unfortunately with that is Fernandes has just had his 3 good games. So it doesn't quite fit that. Because you might as well have Mbeumo for his good fixtures before you jump off him. Yeah. But if you're looking to put in a Salah, Palmer, Saka structure because you're selling Haaland, you've got to sell in Burma.
You have to. If you, because you, because you're going to need a cheaper two, aren't you?
Yeah.
So
yeah. So it doesn't fit. The midfield spots are so precious, but I actually think that Fernandes could be that third mid in a restructure. But looking back here, Wolves' fixtures are still good, before and after the break.
Yeah.
Bournemouth's fixtures are good. I think we're going to talk about another Bournemouth player in a minute who could come in, or perhaps mention another one. Arsenal, we saw. I think Odegaard got about 2 minutes last night, didn't he? He came back onto the pitch just as a bit of a token gesture for travelling, I think. But Odegaard will change Arsenal.
Agree.
I'm not a season ticket holder there, but I watched the way he plays, and he's complete. Everything goes through.
I think
him.
Like Rodri and Odegaard,
they have missed him.
The impact of those two players in their respective teams just can't be understated. It's absolutely incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, and I also read that Arsenal come game week 12 will have played all of the current top 10 in the Premier League.
Wow.
So they've had their 10 hardest fixtures in the first 12 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's an amazing trick. So that means they've got the easiest 10 fixtures to come in the next 12 weeks. So basically, like, happy days, finally, holding Raya, Gabriel, and maybe getting Saka back or looking at the Havertz option. That's the way to go. So Arsenal certainly will come back onto the radar after the international break, and I'm not surprised to see them on the list there. I'm not so enamored about Ipswich. I mean, I know Leif Davis got some points last week, but I think Ipswich are a bit of an avoid. But the likes of Isak and Watkins, we haven't had much talk about them in recent weeks because it's all been about the cheap forwards to enable the mids. But if you're going to come off Haaland for that Liverpool fixture in game week 13 and you want to go to a mid price like Isak or Watkins, those teams have good runs, at that point, and talisman player like Isak and Watkins through the December fixtures, I think, could be a really good shout. And maybe teams that have gone early and put those 6 million structures in place might find it hard to do that.
I'm contemplating just roughly Haaland to Watkins in game week 12 as a route to Palmer for me, because I still haven't got Palmer. I would love if Palmer missed out this weekend. I haven't owned him all season.
Oh, cheers! Last thing I want is another weekend of jeopardy like that.
I haven't owned him all season. He's got Arsenal, right? So he's got a really hard game, but I would love him just to miss out, so I don't have to hide behind the sofa as I always do when he plays, and then just bring him in. Say, come over on the couch with me, Cole, in for game week 12. So
he's just been named. He's just been named in the England squad. I mean, there's plenty of time for him to pull out, but I think if he was badly hurt, they would have taken him out of that one. So I'm pretty confident Palmer will play.
We've game week 11 transfer targets. We touched on a lot of these players already. So we've touched on Solanke, we've touched on Haaland, we've mentioned Odegaard and the impact that he will have on Arsenal as well. A couple of other players, Rich. Ryan Ait-Norrie, I've got him early, and I think I've had back-to-back 1-pointers off him so far, or wherever it is, or had the 1-pointer last week, which was disappointing. There's a chap in front for Bournemouth. Obviously, this, we know Semenyo is just a fantastic option, a midfielder, so he gets the extra points, absolutely on fire. Evan Nielsen could be coming into the cheap striker or mid-price striker bracket. So with those fixtures, what's your thoughts on him?
Well, I think Semenyo is probably the pick, but again, we've talked so much about the competition for places in a buy-ban midfield that if you're wanting 3 premiums or 2 premiums and Fernandes in there, plus keeping in Burma because you might have $1 million of sunk cost in him or whatever. It's like Evan Nielsen's definitely right up there now with the other 6 million options like Vissa or Jimenez or Strand Larsen, those kind of things. I think he's under 6, is 5.8, 5.9, I think. So he's definitely worth a shout if you want a Bournemouth player and you haven't got Semenyo. I don't think I'd double up on them.
No.
I think Gian put a good piece of analysis out, one of our contributors, about the danger of doubling up on players, although I think there is still scope for double up on maybe Vissa and Burmo. But, if you have a bad week and you've got a double or a triple up in attack, or a double or a triple up, and that team has a bad week like Tottenham are prone to, your team's probably going to have a bad week, and that's the downside. You want to have double ups and triple ups when a team is just going to go on a run like a Manchester City or an Arsenal for 15, 20 matches and just keep winning them all. I'm not sure I'd put Bournemouth in that bracket just yet, but I certainly think he's worth a shout if you haven't got Semenyo.
Well, Evan Nielsen, from game week 2 to 5, didn't have any goals or assists. Game week 6 to 10, he's got 4 returns in 5 games, and that was including a goal off the bench as well. His points read 92587, which is, Chris Wood-esque numbers over the last few weeks. He's 0.9% overall by the game. Maybe not one to bring in this week or to Brentford. Well, I'll say that he might be, but this is the kind of player for me.
I'd rather have him than Calvert-Lewin. I know that.
I'd rather have my neighbour who's 70-year-old lady next door in my Calvert-Lewin, to be honest. But this is the kind of player for me that is very exciting in terms of it's probably even if you're speaking to just some FPL managers or football fans, it'll be like who's Evan Nielsen? It's he's not that well known yet, and it could be the kind of player who goes massively under the radar. You bring him in, bags of breaks, and all of a sudden everyone, next week's thumbnails and every YouTube channel will be, oh, you've got to buy Evan Nielsen. If you can jump in there early, I really like it. I wish he was. Well, he's not. He wouldn't be my punt this week, but I think he could go under the radar. I really do. I like him.
He put the he's on pens as well, isn't he? He put the penalty away against City, didn't he? I think. Pretty sure he did. I think Cliver might be on them if he's off the pitch, but I think Evan Nielsen scored the penalty.
Semenyo scored last week. Oh, sorry, the other. Yeah. He
2-0,
missed he missed one earlier.
2-1.
Yeah. He missed one earlier
2-1.
in the season, didn't he? And then scored. Yeah, I like him. I do. Should be a good game. Brentford and Bournemouth actually should be.
I've got a high
goals
down for a high scoring match. Could be another 5-3, which is why it's always worth loading up on players from these two teams. I think they'll go at each other. Yeah,
will
definitely. And then the other funny thing, you've got Solanke now as a transfer target there, lurking around the back. So it probably wouldn't be the worst thing to eat some humble pie and buy Solanke back for a week, would it? With Ipswich, what do you think of that one?
Well, it just makes the transfer out last week look so foolish, but yeah, I mean, home is longer term. His fixtures aren't fantastic, and as you say, we have got Johnson, which was one of the reasons why I was reasonably comfortable saying. I mean, when Johnson scored, I was like, come on, being a Spurs fan as well, also kept the right player wherever else, and then obviously Solanke did the damage after. But if you were wildcarded now, would Solanke be in your team? I don't think he'd be far away, would he? It's amazing. It's amazing what a week can do.
I think he'd be in a free hit team this week.
He would.
It just doesn't feel like, obviously if you've just taken a transfer to take him out, getting one to take him back, get him back in again, and then moving him on for, I don't know, an Isak or a Watkins in a few weeks' time. I mean, you could do it, but you're just really using a transfer for one fixture.
Yeah, I agree.
Some people may feel differently.
It was Kluivert who scored the penalty.
Was it?
Evan Nielsen took it early in the season and missed. Yeah, Kluivert scored the penalty. Just a quick look at predicted points for the coming few weeks. So this is for the next 4 game weeks. Haaland 31.9, and it's so congested. Look at this: Salah 29, Palmer 28, Saka 28, Son 26. We haven't even mentioned Son, who's should be back and fit. Isak 24, who we mentioned a couple of weeks ago. We took some stick, Rich, on I can't remember what platform it was, about the Isak pick. And me saying I didn't expect Isak to be in the AI team. And since then he's banged a couple of goals in. And he is a good pick. And fixtures are okay. 90-minute man at the moment on penalty. Just one that the AI has picked out that he's under the radar. He's a fantastic player. He, like I say, he was in everyone's team for Gameweek 1.
60% of teams, wasn't he? Plus,
massive.
Most popular player.
Was. Wood is still there. I think I'm going to hold Wood for another 3 weeks. They're home to Newcastle this week. Then they're away to Arsenal. It's obviously a tough game. Then they're home to Ipswich. Then you'll go for me after that.
These home games,
after he scored another 6 goals.
That's amazing. Absolutely. I mean, do you think for those that again who are looking to move to him that ship has sailed? I mean, if you look at Forest fixtures now stretching off into the distance,
I think I'd be looking more at Cunha, Jimenez, Evan Nielsen. I think I'd be looking more at, I like to look more in 6 to 8 week sort of stretches when just someone to put in there and you always leave there for a while. I think I do think Wood will get a couple of returns over the next 3 weeks. But he's probably a transfer in, a transfer out, after 3 weeks. Watkins 23, Foden 22, Cunha 22, Mbeumo 22, Solanke 22, Jimenez 21, Jackson 21, and then a few more besides. Bruno just sneaking in the bottom now, 8.2 million at 20.6.
I think that might be a bit low balled there by the AI, but that's based on the poor performance so far, isn't it?
It is indeed. But look at them again, just one defender right down the bottom, 20th place, Gabriel. Look at those options. Those 19 options there. If you had any 8 of those, you'd fancy yourself over the next few weeks, wouldn't you? Such a fantastic game this season, such a fantastic league. Brilliant stuff. Just a quick look at the Hub AI Game Week 11 Wildcard team. You can look at this yourself. It's updated all the time. You can also get the current Game Week free hit team as well. fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, free for 7 days and also 30% off memberships if you want. You get so much stuff. It's absolutely crazy. If you're not a Fantasy Football Hub member, you really should consider joining. It's gone for Flecken in goal. I'm quite excited to hold Flecken, Rich, over these next 3 games. They're really good. Fabianski, who's obviously getting a few minutes as the 4 million keeper at the moment. Gvardiol, I heard a stat this week, Rich. I'm going to repeat it. I'm not sure. Well, I say I'm not sure if it's true. The chap who told me is a very respected fantasy player. Apparently, Gvardiol has scored 6 goals in his last 8 away games, which, if that is true, is absolutely insane.
Astonishing.
It is astonishing.
Yeah.
You'd say that even if Haaland scored 6 in his last 8 away games, you'd be like, "Whoa, that is top."
I got a stat for you. I've never owned Gvardiol.
Never owned Gvardiol on FPL.
Including the whole of last season.
I owned him at the end of last year.
Every goal he scored. So yes, I think he might be my Trent downgrade in a few weeks, but I don't want to see City's form pick up. I think first before I get him in.
I think after that Liverpool game, when he's off a touch, but Gvardiol, he just keeps doing it, right? Every time
he does.
Every time I get like a notification on my phone as a Haaland though, and I see Matt, I don't know if you do this thing, mate. It's a thing I've done since I was a kid. When I see a notification, I'll like blur my eyes so I can, and then I slowly unblur them like this just to see. I see, Man City have scored. Come on, it must be Haaland. I open my eyes fully, and it's Gvardiol every week. Just Gvardiol. It's like, jeez, incredible. Nori is in the team, as is Gabriel. The other defenders are Van der Berg, who is a starting 4 million player. An interesting one, Kirkes, Bournemouth defender, 4.4 million. I really like the look of Kirkes. He is someone I am eyeing up over these next few weeks. Trent to Kirkes.
In the last game.
He was.
Yeah.
I think he had. I think he had a fantastic block as well in the match as well. I think he's. I like Kirkes, but I think I bought him with my triple Bournemouth last season, Rich. It was either him or Senesi. So I haven't got good memories of.
You had 3 Wolves and 3 Bournemouth, didn't you? In that game
to
of
save
24.
My season. Salah, Saka, Johnson, and Son is the interesting one here. I'm quite interested in that. No Palmer. But Son, but it's hard to argue really with Spurs have got the highest team XG, and when Son has played over the last few weeks, he's looked incredibly dangerous. So Son and Johnson.
Have you reduced? Has the AI reduced Palmer's minutes because of the knock? Is that why Palmer's not in the team?
So we talked about this earlier, and we bumped his minutes up again because we didn't feel that he shouldn't not be in the wildcard team. It reconfigured, updated, and it kept Palmer out of the team as it stands at the moment. Okay. So, and Lewis Potter on the bench, 5 million Brentford player as it stands. So no Semenyo, no Mbeumo, no Palmer, no Rodgers. But again, it's like what I touched on the previous slide, right? Salah, Son, Saka, and Johnson. I mean,
pretty formidable this week.
Pretty formidable. And then the forward line of Wood, Cunha, and Isak. So
now this is not surprising me because 2 weeks ago, last week, you wouldn't have seen an £8-9 million forward in the forward line. Yes, you'd have seen suggestions to come off Haaland, but Isak and Watkins are going to be all the content will be about them in between November and December.
I think
after
it
the
will.
international break.
Yeah, and it
goes,
goes
definitely one of those two.
Goes to show, you could do Isak down to someone else and do Sander Palmer.
Well, I tell you what, I
might
do. If you put Havertz in that price point alongside Isak or Watkins, one of those. So have Havertz in there, then use the Saka slot for Bruno Fernandes.
Nice.
And you get your Arsenal players like that, and
very nice.
You can still have Saka if you want because you haven't got Raya in goal, so you can still have 3 outfield Arsenal players. But you've certainly got, if you want to use that midfield slot, because you wouldn't carry on with 2 Spurs either, would you? You'd do the Spurs thing for the Ipswich fixture, and then you'd move one of it on, I guess. But there's lots of things you could do. It's a nice wildcard team. I just don't think it's a good week to wildcard. I think next week's a good.
Yeah, definitely. Oh no, I wouldn't be wildcard. But it's just interesting to see the horizon for the next sort of 5 weeks, where the longer term sort of moves are looking, and what kind of structure of team and stuff. So it's really interesting. Tariq said wouldn't trust Flecken, and there's a lot of not hate for Flecken in the chat. Man says I've had Gvardiol for months. Very, very well played. Jason says Fergie's done a lot of that blurry eye view in the last couple of seasons. I do it every Saturday. Every time a goal is scored, I do this thing where I hold my phone and I kind of go, you must do that. Has anyone else done that? I don't know.
I've stopped taking notifications on my phone of live goals. I
very sensible, Rich. Very sensible.
I switched it off because it wasn't doing me any good mentally. Because most of the time, it's not someone you own. It is 90% of the time you don't own them, so it's just someone else doing well.
And Yogesh says, "Are those their ranks or social security numbers?" Just kidding.
Thanks for the empathy, Yogesh. We must get you on the show.
Just a quick look at the stats ahead of Gameweek 11 from a team perspective. In terms of goals, Spurs are predicted to score the highest amount of goals this week. Dominic Solanke, top of the charts. Now, Spurs are predicted to score 2.24 goals this week. Man United second, 1.95. We mentioned those 2 fixtures in particular are absolutely fantastic. And Liverpool 2.02 at home to Villa as well. Man City have got 1.86, which I think is the 4th highest. Clean sheet wise, Man City actually, statistically, this would be the same. It's been the same for seasons. The kind of XGC and whatever else, but they've got a 55% chance of keeping clean sheet. Spurs 44% chance against Ipswich, and Man United 43% chance against Leicester. There's not.
Yeah, that's a really high. That's a really high.
It's clean sheet. It's very high.
City away to Brighton.
It is. Yeah. I completely agree. But yeah, Man City have always had this high XGC. It's because they don't give up many chances. Historically over the seasons, but they always tend to give up that one chance. and they, they tend to concede. But yeah,
that seems
I think
a
I'll be
real
benching Lewis
outlier.
this week.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Lewis. He's not sure of a start, is he? I don't think.
I don't know. I think he'll start this weekend, but even away to Brighton, I mean, I can't get excited. I mean, we thought of Lewis maybe playing in this role where he get lots of shots, but City are just not the same team at the moment that he's even allowing Lewis to get up into those positions to have shots. So I just can't get excited about him at all. Sam Williams says, if you look up the word irony in the dictionary, you'll see the picture of the Green Arrow podcast with Fergie and Rich's ranks. Thank you very much, Sam Williams. Love that. Love that as well. Looking at the captain for this week, if you go on Fantasy Football Hub, there is a poll. Top of the shop for this week, 40% of the votes is Mohamed Salah. Second is Haaland with 17%. Son at home to Ipswich is 14. Solanke 13, Cunha 7. And on the predicted points, again on fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, Salah top 8. But again, it's close. Haaland 7.5, Son 7.4, Saka 6.8. Thoughts on captaincy this week, Rich? Objectively, not with your team. If you could own someone this week,
Salah's the best captain. Yeah, it's just Liverpool's form is the best. They're top of the Champions League. Winning 4-1 against Leverkusen. Only lost one game last season in the Europa League final, didn't they? They went the whole season unbeaten in the Bundesliga. They're not a bad team, and they got demolished by Liverpool, taken apart. So I think, and Villa lost 2 on the bounce, just got hammered by Tottenham, just lost in the Champions League. So yeah, Salah is clear, and I'm worried about not owning him. I don't own him, let alone captain him. So I've got another.
We will touch on your.
We'll
touch on your team in a bit. Boona has just jumped in the chat. Asks us if we want any team news for this weekend.
Targeted team news. That's all I can do.
Targeted team
Boona
news.
telling me something.
Great to have you in, Boona. Fantastic. Yeah, well done. Well done last weekend. I've got you muted. I've met Boona, and I think I told him to his face, mate, I've got you muted. You're a lovely guy, but I just can't take you on Saturday mornings. So, but yeah, really good guy. Nice to see you, Boona. If you don't follow Boona, make sure you do. Is it Boona FPL or FPL Boona on Twitter?
He likes helping you get fantasy points, doesn't he?
Superb. Fergie is a punt for game week 11. We talked about this chap quite a lot this evening. I was quite surprised to see his ownership. I do like the Evan Nielsen punt, but that'll be more for next week, I think. But this week, going for a player 7.7% owned, which is very, very low. Fantastic fixtures. We mentioned these next 3 fixtures are bang on the money. He's an FPL legend. He is a 10 or 11 million player. He's got the momentum. He is he's an absolutely fantastic asset, and I just cannot get away. If I was wildcarding this week, Bruno Fernandes would be in my team for these next 3, and I can't believe his ownership. 7.7% owned is absolutely crazy. And just to look at his stats, just from last week, 1 appearance, 1 goal, 4 shots, 1 on target, 3 shots in the box, XG 1.32. I know he had the penalty, right? But this is, home to Chelsea. He had 2 big chances created and 4 key passes. He looks like a man back in form, and I think these next 3 games, Bruno, everyone's guessing it right in the chat, would be my man. So if you have got an 8.2 million shaped hole in your team, I haven't, all season I've just said stay away, but there's such a momentum team, and I really, really think that Bruno the next 3 is going to smash it, so I would be going for him.
Good pick.
Rich, we've got your team on screen. Calvert-Lewin's looking up at me apologetically still. Is he going to be looking up at me next week, Rich?
I very much doubt it, mate. I think nothing will give me greater pleasure than to transfer him out. I think I honestly don't care if he scores a hat-trick at the weekend. I will still not want him in my team, and I will still be delighted with the transfer. So the way it's going, hang on to him, because I've seen content saying hang on to him another week. He's playing West Ham. They're vulnerable through the middle. The West Ham are having an awful time of it. So give Calvert-Lewin another week, and that will just keep going. That narrative.
Of course it will. Well, we brought
I've
him
had
in
enough.
because he had the fixture run, right? But there's just
I've had enough. He's going. He's going. So I'll have a look at the United team tonight. I don't think it's out yet, but it could be Haaland. But your punt of a couple of weeks ago, Visser. Still fancy Visser for Brentford's fixtures. I don't really want to spend
as well.
a huge amount of money. So likely to be Visser and hang on to the cash because I'm going to go big in midfield after the break. And that will probably be it. My one other move might be to bring in Aït-Nouri, and I might bring Aït-Nouri in for Lewis, or I might bring Aït-Nouri in for Mykolenko because I really don't want any Everton players. I don't even want
double Everton
Mykolenko coming off the bench. So I'm a bit worried about Lewis's start, and I may sell him, and I may just get, but I may get Aït-Nouri for Mykolenko instead. So, but that would only leave me with 2 transfers going into the break. Do you think 2's enough?
Oh, yeah. Well, you've already got Palmer. Have you made your bed with Haaland yet, do you think? Or will you be doing Haaland to Salah for game week 12?
I think I'm possibly going to sell Haaland. I wasn't going to do it last week, but one more blank, and I think that'll be it.
I think we'll be fine, because obviously what you need to do is you need the 2 moves to get Haaland down and get in Salah. You've already got Palmer, though, so you've already got the structure in place you sort of need. So I think 2 will be fine.
You just got to wait that extra week to do the third mid, if you like. So that's the only downside. So I don't know whether to bolster that defense. That's all.
Yeah,
but Trent, Gabriel, Lewis is all right, isn't it? I think it's fine.
Just think on Trent. I'm thinking of doing Trent down. Who did I mention earlier? Trent to Kirkes frees up 2.6 million. That's a crazy amount of money, isn't it?
Yeah. I think Trent.
I don't mean this week.
Trent is the other route. I was more getting ready to sell Trent if I was keeping Haaland, and it's just funny to see the mindset change over the last 2 or 3 weeks as Haaland's been blanking, and you just want that money out, and therefore you can keep Trent if you sell Haaland. You don't have to sell him. You don't have to, making defensive moves is just less upside, isn't it? Because no one's really keeping clean sheets at all. You're getting 3 to 4 clean sheets a week out of 20, so that's not even 0.2 of a time you're getting a clean sheet, and they're random. I mean, last week's was who? Forest, Newcastle, and Bournemouth. No, it wasn't Bournemouth. It was one other that I can't remember, but it was Southampton, I think it was. So you wouldn't pick those 3 to keep clean sheets given the people they were playing. I don't think so. Really hard to pick clean sheets, and the premiums just aren't really doing it. But making defensive moves at all just seems like a bit of a waste of transfers when they're at such a premium.
It doesn't. And you've got good defenders. I think that's Lewis. Yeah, Lewis maybe not, but I think you just leave him, mate. I think the points are elsewhere on the pitch, aren't they?
They are. That's it. Well, I mean, Jacob Grizz, I haven't had a single game week where I've had my 4 million defender available. Started the season with Barco. He never boxed at the start of the season, did he? And then as soon as we brought in Greaves on the wildcard, he did his hamstring. He got injured. So basically, I haven't had that fifth defender.
It looks like Greaves might be coming back for game week 12 because he's got some points
really?
there. Yeah.
Okay, good.
You've got a team rating overall, Rich, of 94%, and one of the weeks so far of 87%. You've got 1% million in the bank. Your recommended transfers this week via the Hub AI. And don't forget, everyone watching, you can get these yourself for your own team. Personalized recommended transfers. FantasyFootballHub.co.uk. Top link below. 30% off. 7-day free trial. Your recommended transfers for this week: Calvert-Lewin out to Raul Jimenez. This move is very, very popular amongst lots of managers. Lewis, a straight upgrade from Lewis to Gvardiol, is like the AI just loves Gvardiol. He's loved he loved him all season. Lewis to Gvardiol with your extra money, mate.
Yeah, interesting. But it's not bad. It's not a bad one to consider, is it?
You can get your own fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. Top link in the description below. Quick look at my team. Flecken in goal. Trent, Aït-Nouri, and Gabriel. I've got Lewis on the bench at the moment. I'll probably leave him on the bench, I think. because I think even if I know they're away to Brighton, I do fancy Brighton to score. And with Gabriel, he is always capable of any of this. The thunderbolt header from anywhere. And every time I've ever benched a Gabriel sort of player, they always do so. He done it earlier this season. I'll never forget. I think it was Rudiger 2 seasons ago. Did it twice to me in 1 season. So happy there. At the moment, Salah and Buemo, Johnson and Semenyo. I think at the moment I'm going to play those 4. I've got Rodgers benched at the moment away to Liverpool, but I am going to play Semenyo away at Brentford. I think he can have a lot of success there like that. And Haaland, Jimenez, and Wood. I'm going to play Flecker. Fabianski. I don't know if he's going to play, but he's home to Everton. But West Ham have been so bad. I'll probably just go with.
Would you do Fabianski over Raya away to Chelsea, or would you play Raya?
I play Raya. I think you have to. Again, Arsenal they're just a great team, and they're 1 win away again from being fantastic. Everyone wants them. It happens all the time, doesn't it? I just couldn't play Fabianski. West Ham just look absolutely all over the shop, and as bad as Everton have been, I do fancy Calvert-Lewin to score a couple this. No, I don't mean. As bad as Everton have been, I fancy Everton to score. I'm not saying it's going to be Calvert-Lewin, but I just can't see West Ham keeping a clean sheet at the moment the way they're playing.
So. I can't. I think you're right. I think you got to play Flecken at home. And I think he'll get a lot of saves against Bournemouth, so I think that's fine. It doesn't matter the fact he's playing against Semenyo. You just take that and hope there's a lot of activity between the two of them, really.
And I think
it's fine. Good looking team, mate. I mean, you've really 97% your team's rated without a transfer.
Overall, that is as well. So that's like forward facing for 5 weeks as well, and 94% for the week. So I'm really, really happy.
You've got it in good shape there, man. Yeah, you should climb. I mean, you should climb with that rating, shouldn't you? Really?
I think so. I'm gonna save my transfer this week as it stands, and then next week. Well, ahead of game week 12, obviously a lot can happen, right? But I'll probably Haaland to Watkins will give me 7.5 million in the bank, which means I can do anyone to Palmer. But who am I going to do to Palmer? Out of Salah and Buemo, Johnson, Semenyo and Rodgers. Might be Johnson.
Johnson's the one you can come off after the Ipswich game, so that's really my move off for a Salah or a Saka position. So
Johnson to Palmer. That's my very, very rough plan. I'm not but a lot can change over the next 2 to 3 weeks. Aaron Pickering also says, Fergie, I blur my eyes as well when I look at the scores. It's definitely do it. You should try it, Rich. I know you don't have notifications on, but for anyone who does, for anyone who has notifications Japanese. on, just blur your eyes, and just slowly open them, and it's really, really it's quite exciting. I'm not sure if I'm just sort of demonstrating how sad my life is, but yeah. My recommended transfer for this week, Lewis to Gvardiol with my 1 free transfer, but because I've got Gabriel, Trent, and Aït-Nouri, I'm going to leave it.
No, you're all right. Aït-Nouri, obviously, Aït-Nouri is on the teetering on the suspension tightrope.
Yes,
but this is the game. This is the game you want him for.
Absolutely, and it's also the week I'm concerned about not having Cunha as well, because this could be the week where he goes off. I was really disappointed with Jimenez, but just hope over the coming weeks that he does the business. He's looked really good. I did a comparison on the Fantasy Football Hub player comparison tool, Jimenez to Cunha, and Jimenez was clear on top, which is why I went for him. So hopefully it comes good over the coming weeks. And that is it from us for this week. Thank you so much to those who joined us in the chat. Really, really appreciate it. I had a packed lobby, lots of fantastic comments and chat. Thank you so much.
Good humour. Thank you, everybody.
Brilliant. Thanks to those who are going to watch it back, and thanks to those listening on the podcast version as well. Your support is very, very much appreciated. Rich, thanks so much as usual. We've had a few comments, Rich, off potential new watchers. Is Rich any relation to Gary Anderson? And we've had a lot of Gary Anderson chat as well. Brilliant.
All right.
Are you any relation, Rich?
No.
Long lost
but,
twin brother.
It's not the first time it's come up, is it, Fergie?
It's
really?
not.
But,
It's not the first time.
A few people think they're the first people to discover that likeness. But,
if you don't know who Gary Anderson is, go onto Google, look for Gary Anderson, and you'll find Rich Clarke.
He's the former world darts champion.
He is.
And he's a Scottish chap, and he's quite well known in these.
Remarkable resemblance, indeed.
Yeah.
Where can people get hold of you, Rich?
I'm on @Rich Clarke FPL on Twitter.
And my handle is @FFH_Fergie. Make sure you drop us both a follow and also follow @FFH_HQ for Fantasy Football Hub. This podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. Thank you so much for the comments in the chat. Really, really glad you've enjoyed the show this week. If you like what you watched, please press the like button. We would really, really appreciate it if you pressed the like button. Also, drop us a follow if you don't. Bale Zaru says, moral of the story, Bruno in. If you've got room for him this week,
if you've
got the room, go for it.
Good idea.
Remember to, if you're not already, remember to subscribe to the channel at the bottom right corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. We would really, really appreciate it. We'll be back in 2 weeks after the international break to preview game week 12. It'll be
a big one.
It will be a big one. Very, very excited for it. We hope you have a fantastic game week 11. Enjoy the break and may all your arrows be green. Good night all.